And welcome back to the official podcast of CanyonChasers, the Breaking Zone. Mm-hmm. It's a sad day. It's the end of MotoGP for the season.
It is a sad day.
It is.
We have months of no racing now.
4 months, because I don't think they come back until March, right?
March, yeah. And this was the longest MotoGP season ever.
Because every other year where they have this many races, 1 or 2 races seems to get canceled for some reason. And this year, no races got canceled.
Yeah, I think the longest season prior to this was 20 or 19 rounds. This was 22, which means there is only 30 weekends in a year where they're not racing.
So yeah, as a fan, I loved the really long racing season. I thought it was amazing.
I'd have them race every weekend.
Yeah, So I think there would be a lot of exhaustion.
Yeah, they would,
and a lot more injuries, but do it for the fans.
So let's talk about Valencia.
The race, I thought, had some exciting moments. Bez is becoming my rider to watch right now. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, in the sprint, right, he got mugged for the first 3 corners because his hole shot device didn't turn off.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
The sooner these are gone, the better. These things, they break so often. I think every rider on the grid has had at least one failure, one mechanical, because of a ride height getting stuck or not engaging or what have you. I think we've even had people where they rode the whole race and rode really well. I think Bagnaia, if I remember right, in Sepang, he rode the whole sprint race without the ride height and did great. So I don't know. I want these things gone.
And then the ride height, we can argue, contributed to Morbidelli's little mess up.
If there is an excuse for Frankie's behavior, the only thing you could blame it on is the ride height device, and even that is a stretch.
I think it's a stretch, right? Because we see them do it all the time. They stab the front brake to compress the fork, to lock it, to do the whole shot device, to engage it. Yeah. And I don't know why he was so close to the back of Espargaro anyhow.
Well, so if you didn't see it, coming up to the starting grid on Sunday's race, on the Grand Prix race, they're all rolling up to the grid, and they all kind of roll it fairly slowly, but they have to, at some point, engage the front ride height device, which you have to do by basically braking really hard and compressing the fork until the mechanism like locks in and holds the fork down. Leish, usually the riders do this. They'll take a couple stabs at it sometimes before they get to their actual grid spot. Aleix just rolled up with supreme confidence, and he didn't even try until his front wheel was in his grid spot, and he rolled into it and just jammed on the front, which is totally allowed. He didn't break any rules by doing that. That's totally fine. But apparently Frankie was just not ready for him to come to a stop all of a sudden, and smacked into the back of his Honda and smashed Frankie broke his hand on his exhaust.
And then when the race starts, it was a little bit comical.
With Aleix,
chunks of
smoking
of Morbidelli bodywork comes flying off the back of the bike because it was wedged into the pipe.
We were watching the race, and I can remember the cameras looking at the front of the bikes from coming onto the grid, and all you see in the distance is a yellow bike skittered on the side, and you're like, that has to be Frankie.
There's only one.
There's only one guy who can do that.
That's not going to be Didja.
No, but. I don't know. It's just par for the course for Frankie. This sort of just knucklehead, like take your brain out stuff. It just is so common for him
to break your hand, especially like the last race is usually not really a super exciting one. Typically, it's rare when the championship isn't established by now.
Right.
This year, it was established quite a while ago, but the testing comes on Tuesday. Today, the day we're recording it, testing is taking place.
Yeah, and you're. When you're Ducati and you are on you get the least amount of concessions for testing, right? You're in the most restricted category. Every minute of testing track time with your actual racers is super valuable. And Frankie just blew it for himself. Like, he gets basically zero input on next year's bike now at this point. And now, supposedly he was going to be on a 25 anyway. I think the 25, 26 version thing is going to get pretty muddled for Ducati going into next year, because my guess is what everybody shows up on for 2026 looks an awful lot like a 2024.
Right. That's I think everybody is expecting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, why invest moving it forward other than a sense of pride, why? Because everything's changing in a year anyhow.
Yeah. So I would think that with that, I would think they go with a very, very 24-ish engine and chassis configuration. I wouldn't be surprised if Digia doesn't come out with some kind of wild bodywork and aero ideas. Like we've seen in the testing so far, it looks like Aprilia has thrown some pretty radical aero ideas, which is par for the course for Aprilia.
Right, and they hit it with that whole zigzaggy paint
They
thing.
loved doing that stuff.
Which, you know, I thought it was cool. It really made me, it was hard to see details.
Yes.
And I only saw like a few minutes of it, but I was it looked like a better looking motorcycle. Like the shape seemed a little bit more proportionate. So maybe aero is finally getting to a state of attractiveness.
Yeah, the front nose of it looks much more Ducati-ish. It's more of like the hoop style, not just the mustache wing style. Yeah. We'll see what they actually roll up with when it comes to racing. This may all just be for pure testing. I would say with the race, the things that were the most interesting to me in the race was Raul Fernandez.
Right. That kid is so impressive. You know, he got a slow start. You know, he was the superstar in Moto2, and then he comes to MotoGP, and you're like, what happened, right? He kind of had that first season was rough because he came with the kid from Australia whose dad raced, Remy Gardner. And there was turmoil in that pit, you know, and so I don't think he really got a good footing. And I was just thrilled to see his performance the last couple races, especially when you consider he didn't race the last round because he hurt his shoulder, if I remember. So he sat out the last race and yet comes to this race like a week later and does amazing.
So I'm impressed by him. I'm really impressed by Bez. And even Bez this year, I think that's 3 wins now. He probably should have had 5, right?
He should have had 5, right? It was that double long lap that I don't know if was really warranted.
Yeah, so he's had a few others where it's like he should have had a really good season. He had a darn good season, but it probably could have been even better. But I think that just speaks to, you know, when you watch the race in Valencia, and we've seen this at other very different tracks, very not Valencia style tracks, that Aprilia, I would argue, is the best bike on the grid right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess you have to give credit to Dorna for their concessions plan of the ABCD kind of ranking, which gave people more flexibility. Seems to have worked.
It has been keeping the racing competitive. I was thinking during the race how interesting it is that for pretty much all of our lives, it's been the Honda Yamaha show.
Yep.
And now here we are. And it's the Ducati Aprilia show. Like the Europeans have beat out the Far East with motorcycle manufacturing, and that's who could have predicted that?
I would say it's kind of a changing of the tides. We'll see what comes in 2027 when the whole formula is kind of flipped on its head. At the beginning of the season of Yamaha and Honda, I really thought Yamaha was much closer,
right?
And it seemed like they were closer, right? But now at the end of the year, it seems like Yamaha has either just like sat and spun its wheels and made zero progress or gone backward, frankly. And the Honda looks really darn good. It looks really tidy. It looks very, you know, a lot of different riders can ride it really well. You know, it was a really big celebration in the Honda pit when Luca Marini, I think he had to score seventh place.
He had to come in 7th, and they got him from D to C in the concessions.
And the team went bananas.
Well, I think it's because they get all those weekends back, right?
Basically, they actually get.
He doesn't have to test, or he can't test, is really what it works out as.
But you know, very much like a point of pride for them to feel like they're, you know, incrementally getting closer. So I'm thrilled for them. I'm excited to see where it goes. It sounded like the bike that Aleix was on for the race in Valencia was very much a version 1 of what they're going to try to do for 2026. And Aleix, you know, they're fairly tight-lipped about these things, but he basically said it's basically better everywhere than the current bike, and the current bike looks pretty good.
That's fantastic. Well, and kudos to Luca Marini. His reputation is that he's very intelligent, he's very clever, he's very articulate, and you know, when he took that position with Honda, I thought it was going to be the end of his career, and it looks like I couldn't have been more wrong. I think he's really shown himself to be really good at helping make Honda or test Honda's bike into something that's really good. And he may be in a really good spot on Honda here moving forward. Like, good move for Luca Marini.
It really looks to me, and we'll see how 2026 goes if they continue this progress, but it really looks to me that if Honda can show that they're Honda still, and in 26 they're up there in the top 5 on a regular basis, I think they've got a good shot to go for a top rider in 27. and there's a lot of fun speculation. Where could that go? Could we see the return of Marc Marquez to Honda for 27? In a fantasy world, everyone's like, well, he wins one more championship with Ducati and then he goes and finishes his career at Honda, and that's sort of bookends the whole career.
Because I think we're going to see some crazy silly seasons when
I think so.
The new bikes come out, and every rider is going to be shuffling for the best package.
Yeah, and I do not think Ducati is going to put much, if any, effort at all into keeping Bagnaia.
Yeah.
I think he is definitely bound for new pastures. I don't think he's going to stick around.
I read some articles that him and Gigi Dall'Igna aren't getting along very well. Yep. And that's what happened with Dovizioso. Dovizioso did an interview, and he talks about just how happy he is now that because he's just riding dirt bikes a lot.
Yeah.
And he talks about how free it is and how not to be under the thumb of Ducati, and how like he's just in this really joyful place. And then you look at what's on the back of Pecco's leathers.
Be free.
Be free,
yeah.
Right? And so it does kind of seem like the writing on the wall, maybe go to a team that gives him a little bit more latitude. And
or just appreciates him.
Right, because Gigi Dall'Igna is known for, you do it his way, right?
Oh, it's clearly his team.
Yeah. And even when he negotiated the contract with Ducati, I believe the linchpin was, I have absolute say on everything. And I mean, he's done a great job. Obviously, the man knows what he's doing.
It's played out for them. Yeah.
but I can empathize with Pecco to be in a situation like this. I think he's had just unbelievably bad luck.
Yeah.
And I think he's on a bike that doesn't really work for him in a team where Gigi wants him to ride a certain way, and maybe he's not capable of riding that way. And I think you could see them saying, well, Marc can do it, but Marc can do things that nobody else can do. I want to see Pecco be successful again.
Yeah. I mean, if for no other reason, I just want to see the race. I want to see him at his best, Marc at his best, going at it. That's what we all came for, right? We'll see what happens there. Martin made a comeback.
Yeah.
At this round, right? I thought it was...
Rode half a race.
Yeah, they were, and he came into the pits at half distance, and they were cheering for him like he won. That was a big deal, and I thought, man, how far has things fallen for Jorge Martin that he's riding with the number 1 plate, and the team's cheering that he got halfway through a race and pulled in.
Right. I did see a clip today from the free practice where they cheered as he took off the number 1 and put 89 back on it. And, maybe we should mention, like, the number 1 plate comes with bad luck.
Yeah, you see there's a lot of, you'll see riders run the number 1 plate when they win the championship sometimes, but you'll see lots of riders who won't do it. They'll stick with their current number, 46 or 93 or whatever it is. It's superstitious. That number 1 it's heavy. So I would venture to guess that after Martin's season, we don't see anybody run the number 1 for quite some time.
Right, because the 2 top riders from last year couldn't have had worse seasons.
It is like it's the script of a poorly written show. How far and how fast they fell from grace.
One of the most exciting championships last year because it went to the last round.
Yeah.
And this year, both of them just
might as well not shown up.
And even poor Pecco getting punted off the track. Was it the first or second lap? I think it was the first lap.
First lap coming out of the second corner, and Zarco just speared off. And and it is sort of a poor Pecco. Like, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't deserve that. But the reality is, you're on the factory Ducati and you're stuck in 9th place.
You're a mid-pack on the factory Ducati, the most winning bike in recent history.
Yeah, I mean, and they always talk about this. Like, they say, "Oh man, you think the battles are fierce up front? Wait till you get further back when the cameras aren't on you." It's brutal back there, especially in the lower classes too. But yeah, you get in the mid pack and everyone's fighting for their life. Basically, they want to stick around in this paddock as long as they can. So it's brutal in the mid pack.
All right. So before we go to the next question, let's talk about the box over your shoulder.
Marquez,
who's like looking over your shoulder. Yeah. This is actually really exciting. Now, we're sponsored by Insta360, and this showed up in the mail yesterday. Mm-hmm. This is super cool. It is a Marc Marquez special edition Insta360 camera that is badged with all sorts of really great more than number logos. There's different boot up and screens in it. Comes with upgraded clamps to clamp it to your motorcycle. I love that Insta360 is doing this to celebrate more than a number.
Yeah.
Marc Marquez is championship. So I'm going to put a link. These are going to be incredibly limited run. They're only doing a handful of them. It's going to be a collector. It has like a signed card inside of it and everything. But that could make a heck of a Christmas present for somebody, I think.
I like that these other brands are catching on to like the Nike signature shoe for the player, right? This is the Marc Marquez edition, you know?
Well, yeah, it just makes me really happy to be like sponsored by Insta. Like I'm sponsored by this. I have the same sponsor as Marc Marquez.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah,
like but I love that a company is sponsoring MotoGP and then also working with small creators like us. It's super cool.
The fact that they care about this sport so much that this is not a small feat to pull something off like this for their brand. They clearly value motorcycles and motorcycle content. So I like that part about them because it's very easy to say, oh, we do action sports. There's a lot of action sports,
right.
But you made a motorcycle, a MotoGP signature edition. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so. I think so too. There's a video that's going to be coming out later this week that is going to be all about tips and tricks that I use to make these videos, like where I mount the cameras, settings that I use, things that'll make it better. So yeah, we'll just tie that all back together. Now, I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. When you look back at the 2025 season, what are the things that you remember? What are your takeaway moments from this season?
It is so funny how we have such, I think they refer to as recency bias, right? The thing that just happened seems like the most important thing.
Right.
It is so easy to forget how dominant Marc Marquez was this season. He crushed this season, but because he hasn't been here for 4 or 5 rounds now, I think you almost forget. It feels like almost like a second season started.
It does.
You know, the fights were different. The riders were different. You didn't have the 800-pound gorilla that's like, well, I mean, that's the win. Let's see what happens afterward. I think just seeing Mark's sheer dominance of the season and how he showed up, and it's like, he's got it maybe better than he's ever had it. Like he even in his most dominant years, I don't know that he looked this cold and calculated and just bulletproof all season long. I would say this is his most dominant season ever. Now I think he's had other ones that statistically were better, but this one he just looked like he was in charge of everything at every step of the way.
Yeah, had he not been injured, I wonder how it would have played out. But that's my big takeaway too. And I know, we got comments and criticisms that MotoGP was boring this year, but I think we're going to look back at this and we're going to talk about the season where this guy was just so unbelievably dominant that it was, and his brother, right? When do you see two brothers holding the top 2 slots of the top tier of any sport? It's incredible. And I don't know if any of us will ever see anything like this again in our lifetime.
Yeah, that alone too, the 2 brothers being at the very top, we haven't seen this since the Williams sisters in tennis, basically. Right. I'm curious, what was the part of the season that is the most exciting to you, or the thing that makes you look forward to next season the most?
Everybody loves an underdog, and I'm so excited for Aprilia. I really am. And it's, when you have a grasp of how just itty bitty, teeny tiny this company is.
In the grand scheme of things.
In the grand scheme of things, right? They are a footnote. Mm-hmm. I believe Moto Guzzi sells more motorcycles than them, like as part of the Piaggio group. They're tiny. There's this tiny little, if you go on Google Earth and you look at the factory, it's just right outside of Venice in Nuale, Italy. It's tiny. Mm-hmm. It's tiny. Like there's probably a factory in your neighborhood that makes like treadmills or something that's 4 times the size.
Right. Yeah.
It's incredible. And so to see this little teeny company with not big pockets, Piaggio Group doesn't give them a lot of resources to work with, and to see what they're doing, I'm so excited about the future of Aprilia. And so to see them end the season so strong, and Bez, I didn't know how Bez was going to do, when he moved from the one Ducati to the satellite Ducati and his performance really kind of fell off. I was like, oh, maybe he's not that adaptable of a rider. Again, I was totally wrong on that. It's just awesome. I'm super excited about that.
So I think the brand I'm most excited about, I agree, is Aprilia. It really looks like next season, unless Ducati pulls out something, which they absolutely could, it looks like they're going to have a real run for it next year. Now, Ducati still has Marc Marquez and nobody else has Marc Marquez. So we'll see how much of a factor he is. I don't think you can underestimate him, even with the injury. I think he will come back. And and be Marc Marquez again.
Well, and quite honestly, by him taking this time off, taking off the end of the season and allowing himself to heal, which he said that was his biggest mistake last time, was coming back too soon. There's a high likelihood that he's going to come back just as good as he was last year.
I'm excited for Aprilia. I'm excited to see what Acosta can do.
Yeah, Acosta's had a rough, and like we should talk about his performance too, because he's on a bike that effectively started the year with no development because of what was going on with
bankruptcy
KTM,
and all that,
bankruptcy and selling to a new buyer, like moving more of their shares to that group in India. And like they didn't get any development. And yet look at how he's performing compared to the other two KTMs.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's Bastianini, it's Maverick Vinales, it's Brad Binder. Like these are not slouches. Like these are top quality riders, and he's just leaving them for dead.
Right. Like leaps and bounds. Like I've always been a Brad Binder fan. Bastianini, we've talked about him. When he's on, he
and Vinales are very hot and cold, but even then they've not held a candle to Acosta this year. Not really.
Right. Even before Marquez got injured, right? They were all running his setup, which I've said this for years. I think Maverick would probably be one of the greatest test riders you could have because he does have the talent, but he doesn't seem to do well in the stress. So take away the stress and let him ride, and let's see what he can develop.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see where that goes. I do hope that they can put in more development and really get that KTM to be a bike that is fitting of Acosta's talent. I think if they can't in 26, I think he'll be looking for a better ride next year. It is funny, if you remember way back earlier in the season, it looked like the Martin and Aprilia marriage was going to be end in divorce before it barely started. Remember, he was basically trying to jump out of that contract as soon as he got it.
That put a bad taste in my mouth with
very much so, yeah.
With Martin, and it's like I really like the whole Martin story. The kid really didn't come from much, right? Like he, Espargaro, Elace and him are buddies. And I think that really helped him get his foot in the door and helped him get where he is. And so it really kind of bothered me that even without riding the motorcycle, he's like, no, it's not competitive. I need to go find another factory. And you're like, bro, you've yeeted yourself 3 times in a row by bad decisions. They were your fault. Yeah. Everyone's on a soft tire. You're going out in the ice cold on a medium tire.
Now you look back and it's like, oh, that's probably the best team you could be in on the best bike you could be on. Like, boy, wait, you almost blew it for yourself, and you didn't realize you had the best deal going.
Right. I didn't even think of it from that angle. But yeah, he might be coming into like the best possible position.
Yeah.
And Bez has just done a great job with that team.
So I think that's exciting. I'm very excited to see if Honda can get closer. I think they're in a really good spot. They're moving in the right direction. It seems like their development pace they're developing faster than everybody right now.
And then Yamaha has been somewhat disappointing they've made just odd decision after odd decision. You were talking to me about how they're doing testing with Top Rack, and they gave him 2 tires.
Yeah, they showed up. They did a private test with him prior to Valencia because they were basically trying to get as much development work with him as they could. And so they went and did a private test with him. And I don't know if it was just a 1-day test or something, just to get him acquainted with the bike. But I think they showed up with a slew of used tires and only 2 sets of new tires. How did you not plan better? How do you only show up with 2 sets of tires? Because the headline joke was Top Rack was running around trying to buy another set of tires from Michelin or Honda. He even said he was trying to go to the Honda team and buy a set of their tires, which you can't do, of course. But and all of this is predicated. That's how they limit testing. They basically limit the tire supply, and that's how they limit testing. But yeah, he was trying to get more tires, and it's like, Yamaha, do you care? Do you not want to succeed at this? You've got to let him ride the bike more and get more time.
And then there was a thing where they showed up for the second wild card, and the swing arm pivot was all the way at the bottom.
Yeah, they hadn't developed a swing arm or a new frame yet.
Yeah, or even just oval it out, man. Yeah. Do something. Yeah. Don't run it already at the limit of the just weird decision after weird decision.
Fernandez, their test rider, he said prior to the Valencia test, they're showing up with the same. It's basically the V4 engine shoved inside the i4 frame and swing arm setup. Still.
Really?
And they're like, oh, well, we'll confirm everything here, and then in Sepang we'll have a proper V4 chassis. And it's like, what have you been doing for months? Where is the V4 chassis? Like,
yeah, like
what are we
you're a
doing
big
here?
company. You could have the people making the motor over here and someone else working on the chassis over there.
And I get that these things they're not production frames. You don't just go, pull one off the shelf and off you go. You got to build the thing, and they're complicated to build. They're not standard frames by any stretch. But even then, how many weeks do you need to go build a couple of frames? So I don't know. I'm really baffled by the direction, or what feels like kind of a lack of direction with Yamaha. The V4 is exciting. Toprak's going to be exciting no matter what, just because he's a good character.
Right.
I'm just disappointed. This is the team that Rossi jumped ship to in 2004, I think it was, or 3.
Right.
Like, you can't pull this together. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, and Yamaha forever was known as the sweet handling bike. It was the balanced package. It could do all the things. And now, like, you kind of start to understand Quattroaro's frustration.
Yeah.
Right. I just have a question for you, because a lot of times testing, we see all the lap times. We haven't watched it. You haven't watched it.
I haven't watched all of it yet, yeah.
But what should people be looking at? It's really cool. They basically show, I think they're 2 4-hour sessions, or a 2 and a 3-hour session or something.
Yep.
You
So
just watch them in their entirety. It's incredible. You get to see the riders and all their non-logoed gear. The new rookies are going to be there. What should we be looking at?
So you're going to see the easiest thing to see from testing is lap times, right? And you're going to see a chart. I promise you, a chart's going to get posted, and it's going to have everyone's best lap time from the test, from the full time. Almost throw that thing out the window. It hardly matters. Almost nobody at the test is pushing for a best lap time. Now, they are all pushing for a lap time, because at the end of the day, these are racers. Everybody wants to win.
Everyone wants to go fast.
But
right?
it's unlikely that all of them are putting on the best set of tires with the best setup they got on the best part of the day and going out for a time attack, right? So you're not going to get a clear picture looking at that. So just don't put too much stock into that. If you are going to be able to spend the time to watch it or go and look at lap times after the fact, you'll see when the riders are going out and doing 3, 4, 5 laps at a time, and then they roll back in the pits to make a setting change and go back out, or try a different part and go back out. Those times, again, I would just throw those out, because they're really just testing things. When you see them go out and do a 10-lap stint or 11 or something like that, what you're seeing is them doing kind of a mini race simulation or sprint simulation. Because now they're saying, hey, this package, this setup of the bike, this seems like a configuration that we could go with. Let's go see what it does tire wear. Let's go see what it does consistency-wise and all those things. That's a better idea of where do they stand, is how consistent and how fast are those longer stints. Because that's when the rider's basically going out and trying to simulate a race and saying, I've got to push up to the level I can, but be consistent with it. That's a better indicator of where they actually stand at that moment.
Yeah, I always like watching it. We already talked a little bit about the Aprilia with the zigzag, don't photo me paint scheme. I think I did see a clip of Toprak. He's in like the most red leathers you have ever seen. They look like Judy Garland's ruby slippers, kind of red. It's like crazy. And he looked really good. I only saw maybe 10 minutes of it before I had to move on. But
I got to see a snippet of him doing a big stoppie at one point. That was fun.
Oh, right on. I didn't know Michelin could do a stoppie.
Yeah, to see Toprak do one. It's just him. Well, the one thing that was funny was I watched a clip of the riders rolling up on the front straight to do a practice start. And there's 2 clips of one of Miller and one of Rins, so on the V4 Yamaha. Both of them, as they're rolling up through the practice start, are trying to slam the front end down to engage the device. Both of them had massive front end locks.
Oh, really?
Like completely crossed, smoke coming off the tire, front end locks.
Trying to get it
to compress. So
come on, I'm not. Man, I wish we could go to Pirelli next year. I'm so tired of this Michelin front tire.
And I think that's, my guess is this one was kind of an odd one where maybe the bike balance is a little bit odd, because that's still not quite the chassis it's built for. But yeah, both of them. And I didn't see any other bikes do it, but I watched both of them do it. They looked almost identical, the 2 locks.
Yikes.
It's not a fun feeling. So
on a prototype, testing platform.
Yeah.
We got a couple questions to answer. Yeah. I'm really excited.
Go through those?
Yeah, let's go through them.
So first we got an email, and we won't go into too much detail on the specifics here because we'll try to make this applicable for everybody. But we had a viewer write in named Justin. Justin lives in Texas and he has a ZX10 and he's spent a decent amount of money upgrading different parts and components of it. It's a track bike, but it's a street bike, but he also does track days occasionally. So his question was basically, hey, I've done kind of the more basic modifications that you would do to a bike. What should I do next? So he's done, brake lines, he's done exhaust, he's done windscreen, the more basic stuff, tank extender, which is common on the ZX10s. But his question is, what else should I do next?
And he gave us a list, right?
Yep.
He was, I think it was wheels, master cylinder,
chain and sprocket,
lighter chain and sprockets. Oh,
Track
suspension.
Oh, and
Suspension was the
that's
other
right.
one. That's important. Yeah.
I think this is a common spot they find themselves in. It's, hey, I'm into this thing. I'm excited about it. What's next? What should I do next? So I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
So my thought is typically, now I'm going to couch this with all the upgrades he's asking if he should do. We've done them too.
Oh, yeah.
All of them. Both my bikes have forged wheels. Both my bikes have suspension work. I've upgraded the master cylinder. I haven't done chain and sprockets, but that's because it's a 200 horsepower motorcycle. And I think that's what I would say to him. Is
and I mean, you probably will when it's time to replace the chain.
When it wears out. Yeah. When it wears out. I'm not going to replace, it's fine now.
Yeah.
But my first thought is, we buy this new motorcycle. We love it. We want to put money into it because it's fun. It's this new thing. But the problem is when you upgrade a motorcycle, right? Like let's say you do an up map or you do a pipe and a tune or you do the forged wheels or something like that. And you do get that performance boost, right? That performance boost only lasts for as long as you have that motorcycle. As soon as you sell that motorcycle, that upgrade is gone. Mm-hmm. So I really think if you're going to be throwing a bunch of money at something, I really believe the best place to start, especially where he is based on his email, is go do champ school. Go do the $2,000 2-day school, because those upgrades you do to your software, the firmware upgrade, if we're going to say, you're going to take that with you everywhere. And you and I both know people far faster than us who can show up on a bone stock motorcycle and just decimate because they have the firmware, they have the skill set, they have the techniques. And there's no school out there that I'm aware of that is anywhere near as good as Champ School. You've done it, I've done it. I'm a Champ School certified coach. It blew me away with how it was so personalized to me. I felt like the whole thing was written to me because the way they coach, they really see what you need and give you what you need. And I came away. So for Justin, that'd be the first thing that would be my first thought. But beyond that, let's answer his question legitimately. If we're going to rank these upgrades, where would you start?
I always tell everybody the number one thing is make sure the bike is functioning, operating properly, right? If you have a modern bike, the modern bike off the showroom floor is phenomenal. The performance capability it has is outrageous from the factory. So long as you have that thing maintained and running properly, there's not a lot of, all the other things you're going to do are little tweaks. They're just going to add a little here, a little weight here, or whatever it is. The suspension is the big one.
Yeah, and even suspension, I would say, just getting the proper spring rates for your size, even without getting into valving and cartridges and all those things like that, just the correct spring can completely transform a motorcycle. And that's relatively affordable. Yeah.
Springs are a couple $100, and then somebody installs them. That's not a big deal. But I would say suspension is the number one thing. If you're serious about track riding, the stock suspension on most of these modern bikes, it is good. It's not bad. If you're just a track day rider, most of the time it's pretty darn close. Maybe a revalve moves you kind of into the window that's more suitable for you and for the track or street riding, whatever you do. But yeah, it's springs, it's damping, valving, things like that. Maybe it's playing with geometry a little if you want to get a little crazy with it. But basic stuff can make a massive, massive difference to how comfortable you are on the bike, especially if you don't fall into the typical off the rack size of.
Yeah, if you're outside of the 150 pound range, you're probably going to have to deviate a little bit more.
Yeah, if you're nearing that 200 pound window, or if you're smaller, if you're down to like 140, something like that, most likely that bike isn't actually sprung for you correctly. So that's an easy first step, is get the right springs put in the bike so you're at least in the ballpark. But even then, I would still put actual suspension above most of these other upgrades. So if that means investing in cartridges or at least revalving a fork, And then usually it's just replacing a shock. Revalving a stock shock is doable, but it's
right. It's just such a hassle.
Cost effective wise, yeah, you might as well just get a.
And I think we should say here too that we've run all of the brands. We've run Öhlins, we've run Nitron and K-Tech, all of them.
Everything.
Penske.
Yep.
And they're all good.
Yep.
They're all really good. And I think you brought up a point, we were talking about this before, that if you are going to upgrade a component, probably make your choice, not what the internet tells you, but where your local support is. If you have a K-Tech or a Nitron suspension guy at your local track, you get along with and trust, that's how you make your choice.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. All of the brands, all of the major suspension brands make quality components. And none of those brands would even argue that. They'd all say, yeah, everybody makes a pretty good product. They all have their own philosophy and they all go about it their own way. But at the end of the day, I've ran just about everything and all of them can work. The biggest thing is making sure you have some sort of support. So at most tracks that I'm aware of, there is at least one or two suspension guys that are kind of regularly there. They're there for support. They do suspension service, but they can also do setup and changes and so forth. Figure out who those guys are. Find one of them that you kind of mesh with and you kind of have a relationship with and work with them. Buy your suspension through them. Have them service your suspension. Support them. And they'll support you. That's my biggest suggestion to anybody who wants to improve and invest in this type of thing. So I'll tell you an anecdotal story. So here locally in Utah, I work with a guy named Fuzzy Moto. He comes out of California. Fuzzy has done Moto America and AMA for ages. He's seen and done everything. I have a tremendous amount of respect for what he does and how he does it. And he does all of my suspension work for me. Now there's times when the relationship is I'll be on track and I'll have this issue or I don't know, I don't have enough rear grip, which I'll go talk to him and talk through what I'm dealing with. And a lot of times he'll tell me what I need to go change.
Right.
So a lot of times it's, we could dial in the compression or we could take out some preload or whatever it is. But sometimes it's, are you sure you're not just getting on the throttle too hard there? Are you sure you're not, tipping in too late or, these other things to talk through? And most of the time he's right. Most of the time it's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I'm rushing the entrance or I'm doing something that's putting it in this spot. But that's the real value of having a suspension guy that you trust is because it isn't just, because I could just get mad and be like, well, why didn't he touch the bike? He could have fixed it. Maybe it's just easier to fix me instead of the bike.
Well, yeah, that's a famous Ben Spies story that he was struggling with when he was racing the MotoGP Yamaha that, on one part of the track, the suspension was doing this. On the other part of the track, he was, and you couldn't tune for both. And the only way to fix it was to adjust how he was applying the brake or whatever to keep the thing in the right suspension zone, and I'm going to throw this out there too, because just having a local suspension guy with the stock suspension, letting him turn your clickers and knobs and dials could make a remarkable difference. But I'm also going to caution with that there are some online resources that a lot of people really swear by that I would caution you not to pay too much attention to them, because a lot of these online guys, they're throwing out these really broad brush blanket statements. And it's, add to, like one of them's like, just 2 more of this, or you want your travel to be here or whatever. And the online person doesn't know how you ride, doesn't know how you're applying the brakes, doesn't know what your local track. They don't know any of these things. And even if you email them, say, oh, I have these things and I ride at this track, I would really find someone on the ground who's actually going to look at you, look at your motorcycle, really, and I hate to say this, but disregard the internet when it comes to suspension tuning.
Right. Now, I would say it is in everyone's best interest to do your research and do your homework and understand how these systems work. The amount of times when I have people who they just have no understanding of how damping circuits work in the bike, and just going and educating yourself a bit, you can start having an understanding of what these things do.
Right.
And I think that would benefit anybody just to understand what it's doing.
Completely agree. That's where you get your internet knowledge from, is what exactly is compression? What exactly is rebound? What's high-speed compression? Now, after suspension, I'm going to say you do the master cylinder, but I'm also going to say don't do the triple clicker super adjustable master cylinder. There's one master cylinder that you and I have had great luck with. You probably remember the model name.
The one I recommend for every track day rider, there's a bunch of fancy ones you can go get. And again, I'm not knocking any of the brands. Galspeed makes good stuff. Brembo makes good stuff.
They all make good stuff.
All of these guys make good stuff. Most of the time for a track day rider, even racer, I just say go find the Brembo. It's called the Mark II. If you go look online, you'll find them. They don't look much. They look very simple. They're a very basic looking master cylinder. They don't have the Brembo RCS has the ratio adjuster that you can get, so you can make an 18 or 20, I think. Don't get caught up in all that stuff. That doesn't matter that much. The nice thing with the Mark II is internally it's built more professionally. It's rebuildable, meaning when the seals finally go, because they will eventually, you don't have to just throw the whole thing out and buy another one. You can get that thing rebuilt. And that master cylinder can last a really long time.
Well, and something else about this master cylinder is that because it doesn't have all the adjustments, the sweep or the way the piston moves through it, there's less lateral sideways pressure on it. So it's more of a straight squeeze, which I think gives it just absolutely incredible feel. Because sometimes you adjust the others to one side or you change like the lever ratio. They have all these crazy adjustments. You can feel the drag sometimes. And this one, and it's crazy, especially with the release. Like it really does feel like the pads really release from the rotor really well. And this master cylinder is more affordable. Yeah.
Cheap.
It's one of the cheaper ones.
$300-ish.
Yeah.
And we have zero connection affiliation with Brembo. This is just, if you go look at most club racing circuits and stuff, you'll see these master cylinders on everything.
Yeah. I put one on
really
my
standard.
Aprilia and I was floored with how good it was.
So save yourself some money, get the Brembo Mark II. It's a good.
And then really quickly, forged wheels. I mean, you and I both have forged wheels.
So forged wheels are cool. I'll say there's a caveat with this. We both ride Aprilia RSV4s, which have a standard and a factory edition. Because there's a factory edition that comes with forged aluminum wheels, forged aluminum wheels are easy to come by.
Right.
So, and you'll find the same thing with Ducati. Any of the brands that have kind of like a high-end spec that has a stock forged wheel, you will find that it is easier to come by those wheels used. There's just more of them around.
Right.
So if you've got the Ducati, if you've got the Aprilia, if you want to get the forged wheels, they are cool. They are lighter. They are better. It is an improvement.
It is an improvement.
But just kind of shop around and wait. You're going to find a set that's someone's selling somewhere for a decent price. That's the way to go about going with those. If you bought the Japanese bike and there is not really a more affordable version of a forged wheel, you're going to be looking at the actual like OZ wheels or Marchesini's or other high-end brands. Again, these wheels are phenomenal. I'm not disagreeing at all. They're built extremely well. They're little jewels. They're beautiful.
Stunning. You have some OZs on your
Got OZs right now.
So good looking.
Yeah, again, bottom use.
Yeah.
But they're wonderful. They're great. They do make a difference. You are going to pay for those. Right. They are not cheap, but they are cool.
Now, I did a video this spring. You can go check it out on the main channel where I compared a bunch of cast wheels with some forged wheels. And the Multistrada Pikes Peak, the forged wheels that it came with actually weighed more than the cast wheels that came on its predecessor. I love forged wheels, but they're not all created equal.
And that's probably a great point. There are certain brands where when they're trying to build the bike to a certain price point, they have to go cheap somewhere to get the price down. Certain models are going to have heavier wheels than other ones. So I won't go into the list because I won't pretend that I know all of them, but do some research. If you look it up and find out, hey, my particular bike, the cast wheels it came with are notoriously heavy cast wheels.
The RC390 have to be the heaviest wheels I have ever experienced.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. Even,
right. But the R6 wheels, I believe, are incredibly light.
Yeah, nobody replaces those hardly. So just do some research before you throw thousands of dollars at something that may not make a difference for you. Right. On the wheels topic, there is a difference between forged aluminum and forged magnesium.
Do not do forged magnesium would be my recommendation.
Yeah, unless you have literal money to burn, I would not do forged mag wheels. They're
gorgeous.
Twice the price of the aluminum wheels. They are lighter, but they fatigue. They don't last. The wheels will eventually fail. And and usually it's not catastrophic, but
Well, there is one famous catastrophic one. You can look it up online. It
the
was
Ducati,
on the Isle of Man on the top. I think it was a Honda actually. Yeah,
Oh,
going
maybe
over the
I'm not
top of the
picturing it.
mountain. There is a Ducati one, I guess, did the same thing too.
Yeah.
But the famous one, he was Isle of Man, top of the mountain. So there's a helicopter
Mhm.
following. So you get this shot, and the rear wheel just breaks in half. And it was the Honda with the single-sided swing arm. So the tire and the rim go this way,
Yeah.
and the motorcycle and the man went off the side of the mountain. It's famous. He was okay, I believe, but
And again,
magnesium wheels.
I mean, these are war stories now, but not to say that, Meg wheels always fail and it's always catastrophic, but just, I wouldn't recommend Meg wheels to anybody.
Right.
Unless
Same thing
you
with carbon fiber.
same.
They might be fine. We have carbon fiber mountain bike wheels, but your tire guy is going to really not appreciate you bringing him.
Yeah, he's gonna be sweating bullets when he changes those tires. So they're cool. I wouldn't say for most riders, that's probably not the best place to invest that much money.
Right.
Most of the time.
Take a school instead.
Exactly.
Seriously, take a school
Way
instead.
more. Yeah. And the last thing I'll mention on the wheels, I have had, I've raced bikes that I had a set of cast wheels and a set of forged wheels. So I'd have to swap back and forth. I could notice the difference slightly, not nearly as much as I would like to believe I could notice it. The thing that I noticed even more though was when I finally went and replaced the bearings on the cast wheels with nicer, I think they're ceramic bearings I put in there. That actually was a noticeable difference. So,
well, and that comes down to going back to the 848. They put forged wheels on that thing. That bike had geometry issues. I even changed the triple clamps to fix the geometry. So by putting the forged wheels on really helped that bike change direction. It was pretty profound.
Yep.
Now, I will say on the touring bikes, putting the lighter wheels on actually almost a detriment because the bike, they're more easily deflected when you hit a pothole or a crack.
Yeah,
they're a little flighty and they're a little skittish. Now, I still go with them if I can get them because forged wheels are stronger. And when you're touring across some godforsaken place, the idea of a stronger wheel is appealing.
Yeah. Justin also mentioned on their calipers, I would not change calipers.
No,
ever.
certainly not on that motorcycle.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some bikes that have caliper problems. Again, if we go back to the 848 and my first gen or second gen Multistrada, it had a really notoriously bad caliper, and it was really easy to get on eBay and find the M50s or the M4s or whatever at the time, just bolt those right on.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go spend. No.
Yeah, and even with the brake master cylinder, unless you're actually having brake fade issues, it's probably not the top of the list either.
Right.
Yeah.
But we also got a question from someone who rides at our local track. I ride a Duck. We both know him. And he had a great question.
So I believe it was a cooler day and he had a little front end slide, but was able to save it. Thankfully, he's got good reflexes and avoided a crash. But his question was, hey, I run basically street Hypersport tires, but I do a lot of track days and I'm probably going to do even more next season. Am I to the point where I should start thinking about race tires and get away from just the Hypersport tires? Which again, I think this is a great question. We have a lot of
It's a question
riders.
that comes up a lot, right? And it's, Champ School, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with the Champ School line on this one, but they're basically run Hypersport tires that you're never going to outperform a Hypersport tire. And I think to a certain point, yes, that's true. But I think there's more to it than just that.
Yeah, so I would say conditions can influence this greatly, right? I lived in Washington, and I raced at Washington, where rain showers happen on a regular basis. Having some amount of tread on my tires is probably something I want to make sure I do. It's also going to be cooler temps typically, so the temperature isn't nearly as much of a factor. Where we are, and where a lot of tracks are, and even in cool temperatures, but the temperature is a factor. And you're going to get your tires to overheat if you're running Hypersport tires. So, for example, we live in Utah at elevation. We ride at Utah Motorsport Campus. That track gets hot in the summer. And with the elevation that we're at, the high desert, it's really, really hot. You will absolutely overheat a Hypersport tire if you're doing full sessions and you're riding hard.
Yeah, we've seen it happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you'll see tires start to degrade fairly quickly in those conditions. Even street tires will. In those conditions, the heat does matter, but even outside of just the heat and dealing with that, the performance is going to hit a ceiling and start to drop off quite a bit. Once they start getting hot, when they get too hot, they start to feel very greasy, and it's not so much that they're just terrifying slides. You just have this kind of less grip, less hooked up, more kind of drifting kind of feeling. And it starts to take away a bit of the fun too from the whole experience.
Right. When you're worried about your tires.
Yeah.
Yeah, because tires are one thing you should never ever scrimp on. It's your contact with the ground.
Yeah.
But there's three choices, right? You basically can do a Hypersport tire, which you and I we've done that.
Yep.
There's also DOT race tires.
Yep.
And then you have full on race slicks. Now, I favor slicks, and I favor slicks for a couple of reasons. Not necessarily for the all out grip, but number one, slicks are a little bit easier on setup. They're not so sensitive to suspension settings because the sipes actually create extra flex points in the tires, so it'll sometimes make things a little easier. But more important than that is when you have slicks, you do have to run tire warmers, and that actually helps the tire last longer because it's going through fewer heat cycles.
Yeah.
So as crazy as it sounds, for you and I, or at least for me, the slicks are the cheaper option in the long run because I can get more life out of them.
Yep.
I can take care of them a little bit better.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I would probably just steer away from DOT race tires because you have the expense of slicks in that they basically cost the same. You do have to run tire warmers anyway for DOT race tires, but you also have somebody basically before you bought it went and cut some rubber out of your tire, right? That's all they are. So I would probably just avoid those. The main reason they exist is there's certain race classes that require DOT race tires. But if you're doing track days, who cares?
Yeah, and I think rather than, the hassle of like swapping tires back and forth, which I understand, is find a second set of wheels, right?
Yeah.
And then put your street tires on one set of wheels and put your slicks on the other set of wheels, or have a dedicated bike.
It's an ideal scenario for someone who wants to do street as well. But yeah, the slicks are better. The trade-off is now you got to bring stands with you. Now you got to get warmers, and you have to have some way to power them. So if your track doesn't have electrical, outlets nearby that you can have access to, you got to get a generator. So now you have to trailer it. So now there's all these extra things that you have to deal with. But the trade-off is if you've decided, hey, I'm way into track days. Yeah, I'm not riding my bike to the track. I put it in a van or I trailer it out there anyway. These other things are just like smaller steps to have a better experience overall. The last thing I'll say about slicks, the tire vendors at the racetrack are going to have tons of information for you on the slick because all the racers are running slicks. So they've got lots of tire pressure information. What compound should you run? Hey, it's a cool day. I'd run this one, not this one. Like all of that stuff is available to you once you're on slicks. Whereas on the street tires, you're just running what you got.
Right. And a lot of times the tire guy will be guessing based on, he'll just maybe making very informed best guesses.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Because I took one of the Honda press bikes out there that was on a tire that the guy had never seen. I'm like, any idea? And he's like, maybe this.
Yeah. Seems fine. Right? Yeah. So,
and you're right. Like that's a really great point. And again, it's like, I think that's a recurring theme of this podcast is trust the guy on the ground, trust your local resources, right? And they're going to know and support them. Buy from them. Don't be the guy that orders your tires online, shows up at the track day and expects the tire guy to swap them for you. You're going to burn goodwill fast.
Oh yeah. If there's your rider tip for the day on this podcast. Do not show up to the track with suspension you bought online and expect the suspension guy to tune it for you.
Yeah.
Don't show up with tires you bought online, expect them to install it for you for free.
And the thing is, like building relationships, like you might have to pay retail the first couple times, but if you build a relationship, you're agreeable, you're a good customer, you're going to start paying online prices pretty soon.
Well,
or as close as they can get to it.
And really, just again, realize you're going to the racetrack because you want the experience. Don't save $20 and ruin the experience for yourself. You know what I mean? Like just go there, make relationships, buy the tires that you need when you need them, get the suspension serviced when you need it, and just enjoy the experience you're having. I get it. All this stuff costs money. Be smart about where you're saving your money. Don't ruin the experience for yourself if you can.
I think that's a really excellent point, because we've been going to the same track for over 20 years. Like the track, I think 2006 was the first year the track was here. So 19 years at that track. And these people, right, I've known them there's people like these are the longest friendships I'll probably ever have in my lifetime. These people mean far more to me than anyone I went to high school with for 4 years, right? I go out there, I know their family, I know their kids, the tire guy, like I know him, and it's, we catch up and you're always excited to see him. And so thinking about the whole experience of the track, you talk to anybody, they talk about their track family.
Yeah.
Because where else are you going to find so many like-minded people to yourself that are like, oh, you like to go crazy speeds? I like going crazy speeds. Let's go do crazy speeds together, but let's not get hurt. Yeah. So I'm going to wear gear. You're going to you're just really with your people. You found your tribe, and don't blow it for $20.
Yeah.
Because there are people out there who like blow relationships fast, and you end up sitting on the outside of the circle, and it's not fun out there.
Yeah. That said, the track is a awesome experience to go have. If you've never done a track day, I don't care what bike you got, figure out a way to just go do it. I don't think I've met anybody that showed up and was like, I didn't have any fun at all.
Right. There's some people that it's not their thing.
Yeah, and that totally is fine.
This is CanyonChasers. She did a whole year out there, and she's like, yeah, she said a funny thing. She's like, she so prefers touring.
Yep.
That she's like, every corner I would imagine I was someplace else. So like she was bored with the thing where you and I are like, how many laps have we done at that track? And then I think last summer we had like a 30-minute discussion on lines and apexes on the East track, and how many laps have we done there? And you're
you're
like,
to this day.
I go from here to here, and I cross to this, and I found I can do that, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go try that. And, so it's really fun, that whole like measured perfection. So we got a little off of I Ride a Duck's tire question, but
hopefully they enjoy the conversation. Thanks for the question.
Yes, and if you have, please send more.
Yeah. The questions are fun for us. It gives us a chance to kind of shoot down rabbit holes and really address what you want to hear, not just what we think you want to hear.
Especially with MotoGP wrapping up, like we can talk about you instead of talking about Mark.
Next thing I want to get to is we had the bike show.
It was actually exciting because I did that video like 2-3 weeks ago where I talked about how motorcycling is dying. And apparently this EICMA was the biggest ever. Like it blew records. So motorcycling is growing worldwide. Let's get back on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
But it's where they reveal most manufacturers reveal their models for next year. And it's open to the public. You can buy a ticket and you can wander through. Of course, it's a little far away for us. Maybe someday.
Is it in Italy?
It's in Italy. It's in Milan. We're going to go through really briefly because we'll start off with Aprilia. Aprilia, their big news for this year is BNG. New graphics.
But in terms of bold new graphics,
they're fantastic.
I was going to say, I like the purple quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, the big bikes get like kind of a race champions purple.
Yep.
And I will say, having spent all that time on that Touareg with the Champions Edition paint, it looks good on camera. It looks really good in real life. I was so reluctant to give that bike back. I just really enjoyed looking at it. But yeah, so Aprilia gets colors. A BMW, they came out with their small GS, the GS 450, I think is the size. But I don't know if we're going to see that in America because I was talking with our local European motorcycle shop, and the small KTMs, the tariffs, they're not letting the small KTMs come in. The small Triumphs, all the little bikes
just get hit so hard. It's not a price point.
Yeah, because I think they're all manufactured in India, and I think that's where one of the big. So that's really, really unfortunate because if you want a sport to grow, you kind of want these small bikes, and we're not going to see them because that new little BMW, the little GS. They painted it just like the big one with their red, white, and blue livery, which looks really great. So
the baby GS, I like
the baby GS looks really cool. It looks fantastic.
I saw the photo of the BSA and I thought it was like a retro bike that somebody had like done up for the show. And then I read a little deeper and it's like, oh, the BSA makes bikes still, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and they look so much like Royal Enfields. I don't know if they're coming out of the same building.
But yeah, they have like a Royal Enfield vibe. Yeah. It's like retro, and I want you to know it's retro.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they came out with an adventure bike. I thought it looked really good. BSA and Triumph used to be kind of your big motorcycles in the 60s and 70s. Right. They were the biggest in the world.
Yep.
And now we're like, wow, they still make bikes.
Yeah. How about
Norton's also making motorcycles too, apparently, which is the other big British motorcycle.
And that brand has been rebought and relaunched, I don't know, about every 7 years.
Yeah, same thing with Norton. I think from what I understand, we're getting a little off EICMA, but there's a company in, I think, Australia that's making the Nortons now, and they are amazing. Like, look them up. They are so super
Okay.
cool. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So CF Moto is an exciting company.
Yeah. This is the one I think is the most interesting.
Right. They had two motorcycles that I think are very noteworthy.
Right.
The first was, I guess it was the year of adventure bikes. They have a 1000cc adventure bike that looks fantastic. It's very GS looking.
This is very BMW-esque.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for contour lines. They put contour line graphics on some of the leading edges. Looks dynamite. But 1000cc adventure bike, that's a lot of motor.
Well, and the thing that I took away from this, we'll come back to the rest of CF Moto in a second. This felt like the year of the Chinese bike.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There was tons of brands, and I can't even remember all the names now, but there was a whole slew of Chinese brands that were there. And it wasn't chintzy, cheap, like it's Ducati with a Y. Like, it didn't look like total knockoffs. They looked like proper, well-built, well-constructed bikes, right? And I saw them, I was like, ooh, this is maybe like the turning point year, is when those start to become very legitimate.
I have a friend who does a lot of work with CF Moto, and I'm going to be vague because they told me things.
Right.
But they said that CF Moto is maybe a year or two away from being a serious threat. Like, they still have a couple things they're working out, but they're moving fast, which I think brings us to the next bike that they.
Oh yeah, I hope so.
Which is their V4. The V4 has adaptive aero on it.
We're gonna make Dave put an overlay up here for you so you can see it.
Well, like when it first showed up, I did a post on the YouTube channel, and you can look at it, where I made a joke of what the design meeting must have been, because like, can we make the wings bigger? No, bigger. Like, and then you made the joke is
it's a wing delivery device.
CF Moto made a device to move wings around.
Yeah,
like the wings are huge.
So the wings on this thing are wild. It is obviously the most striking thing of the bike is when you look at it from the front. It has wings, and then like the little barge side plate, and then more wing on that.
Right.
But it does feel like a second grader drawing a motorcycle and an airplane at the same time.
They're very wingy.
So the other wings that jut out, though, the interesting thing about them is they're active. So they tip and they pitch, and I don't know if they pitch independently. I'm not sure,
that'd be crazy. But like, I just think of like the downforce for braking. Like, you apply the brake, and the wing just automatically gives you downforce onto the front wheel. That could be like a noteworthy safety aspect.
Very well could be. I'm very excited to see what that does. There's also the front one's the one that's going to catch your attention. There's actually a matching one on the tail.
Yeah, that also has
flaps almost like a DRS for high speed, when you need it.
Did you see the photo of the CEO of Ducati looking at the bike?
Domenicali, I think.
Domenicali, yeah. He's like, he looked really excited.
He looked very approving of it. Like,
yeah.
Oh, dang, that's not bad.
Yeah.
So the wings are going to be the thing that are going to catch your attention. I would say find a photo of the bike in profile from the right side. From the right side, you don't notice the wings as much. They're kind of hidden. It looks proper.
Yeah.
Like the swing arm, the exhaust, the shape of everything. You look at it and you go, ooh, that is a legitimate super
bike. And they're claiming 200 horsepower and under 200 kilos.
Which has to be without fuel, I would assume.
Right, but still a 1-to-1 power to weight ratio. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like it sounds like a proper machine. Now, we'll see what comes of it when it shows up, but if you assume it's going to be on par or near on par performance-wise, and you assume it's going to have a slight price benefit compared to the Italian brands, this might be a really compelling bike.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, it's compelling to us. Like, I'd go look at it. Like,
I want to go see one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd ride one if I get the opportunity. Yeah.
So anyway, that one is really interesting because CF Moto looks very serious, and they've been, through sponsorship more or less, but they've been in GP for a little bit now, right? They've got Moto 2 and things like that. So they're involved, and they're clearly interested in being more involved. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't come up with a race spec version of that V4 in the near future.
Oh, and run it through World Superbike? Oh, that'd be fantastic to see.
I think for sure they will.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Like, that would be great.
I'm excited for it. So we'll see what happens with Active Aero when they go racing. But yeah, I think overall I'm pretty excited about that bike.
Yeah, super, super cool.
Yeah.
Ducati. Now, Ducati came out with a few things. They have the Hyper SP, and they teased a new Desert X with that new V2 motor.
Right.
That new V2 motor is pretty cool. No more Desmos. They went to valve springs, and I believe no more belts.
Yep.
And as a longtime Ducati owner, I will not miss belts.
Right.
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting.
The on that engine, real quick, I think there's a lot of people who are annoyed or whatever that they got rid of the Desmo valve system. The real benefit of the Desmo system was you could rev the engine higher. Basically, the valve springs and the valve train was no longer your limiting factor. Because you were never going to have valve flow basically with those systems.
And valve flow is when the engine's spinning so fast that the spring can't react fast enough to close the valve, and you'll get interference where the valve will hit the piston. So a lot of race bikes went with pneumatic valves, and Ducati, their MotoGP bikes, they're still running Desmos, which was, I believe, a technology invented by Mercedes during the World
in
War
a
II
really
era.
old technology.
Yeah, really, because before valve springs, it's super interesting. I love Desmos.
Yeah.
They are a little bit more complicated to adjust, but they're not that bad.
But by going to standard springs, now, the reason why MotoGP still runs it, like you said, is the RPMs.
20,000 RPM.
Yeah, they're running at crazy RPMs. You're not going to run that on your Desert X.
No.
Right?
Well, and like my Multistrada, you can get my Multistrada in an SP version with Desmos, and it has a much higher red line, but you also have to go back to Desmo valve adjust intervals, where my valve adjust interval with the valve spring is a 30,000 mile valve adjust interval. So
what's Desmo, like 8?
I think my last Desmo, it was like 12,000, which was unheard of. But my first Ducati was a 3,000 mile valve adjust interval. And the whole design, it was really clever. It was designed to have the valves adjusted. The tank came up on a hinge. There was a cutout in the battery tray. You take the battery out, and there was a cutout in the battery tray, and there was your valve cover right there. I could adjust the valves faster than I could change a tire.
But you couldn't adjust them as fast as the guy who rode the Honda.
No, who didn't have to adjust them. He didn't have to adjust them. I love Desmos, but I don't need to own them. Well, I guess my wife's bike still has Desmos and belts. So they came out with 2 special edition paint liveries for Marc Marquez and Pecco. Did you see these things?
Yep.
So which one did you like better? Let's just say that.
Well, I have to like the Marquez one just because the Pecco one I just associate with crashing and losing at this point.
Well, and it was just camo. And you and I are both former military. I don't need to ever wear camo again. Let that part.
I just have no love for camo.
Yeah, so it was kind of the Marc Marquez one. I think looks stunning.
Yeah,
the 9.3 and the whole thing. It looks really good. But what I'm most excited about with Ducati is they brought yellow back.
I'm excited about that because you had a Super Sport that was yellow,
and
it looked fantastic. Normally they just do matte black, like bare carbon for the bikes for testing. For this year, they did special for the factory team. There was the old classic, like heavy, like. Or
a Bass Boat
Sparkle, like silver flake.
Yeah, like the original 900 Super Sport that they won a MOLA on.
And then they did a yellow one, and they
looked so good. So good.
What kills me, we're going to totally get derailed here for a second. What kills me is, I think of all the MotoGP bikes, the Ducati team is the least interesting paint scheme.
Oh my gosh. And they used to have the marble stripe. They used to look so good. And now it's...
But then what really gets me is then you clearly see that they can do it. They can make something special and exciting. They just choose not to.
Just red.
Lenovo. We're red. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
All right.
Anyway.
Auto Grill.
Yeah.
All right. Harley Davidson, they actually, they were there. Typically, Harley doesn't usually announce their bikes until January. But they did a thing with their race baggers, and they're talking about how now it's a world-class race series, which is exciting. But that was pretty much all Harley did. Honda has they have that new CB1000F, which looks like it just rolled out of 1978.
They're good at retros.
But they also came out with a CB1000 GT, like a sport touring bike, and I can't tell what's different about it from the NT.
Style-wise?
Yeah, well, it's the same bike. Like, they look a little different. The CB1000 looks a little different than the NT, but it's kind of the same motorcycle. So it's kind of like an odd choice. Also, the 750s and 500s. I don't know if we get the 500s here in America, but they're all getting E-clutch, which big fan of that. And
we used to get the 500s if we don't still.
Well, I think like they're doing like a GB350 and a GB500.
Okay.
Oh yeah, maybe we are getting
the 500s. I don't think we get the 350s.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I'm wrong. And the new Transalp, the bike that I'm working on the review, editing on that review too. That's coming with E-clutch. And having just spent time in Moab on that thing, E-clutch could have been really interesting. I wonder how that would work. I would love to try that. They also have with the WN7, their new electric motorcycle. That looks pretty cool. I'd like to see that in real life. But the star of the show,
The
from
most
Honda,
interesting one
was the V3R 900 supercharger. They actually
E-compressor.
E-compressor.
E-compressor, they call it.
Yeah, well, it's an electric supercharger.
Yeah.
But it still looks
I think
business.
this is a fascinating little exercise. So I don't believe that they have announced a production bike that's going to use this engine yet.
I know. I sure hope they do. I mean, come on, you're freaking Honda. This thing is so exciting.
It seems like they're inching closer with it. This is what they're doing with this seems very similar to what happens on the car side, where a prototype comes out and then they kind of gauge reaction, and then a new version of it comes out and they gauge reaction, and they kind of are going like based on reaction kind of down a lane with it. My guess is it's lightweight, it's efficient, it still makes enough power, and it's unique. What do we put it in though? Is this a sport touring bike? Is this a sport bike? Is it, what is this thing exactly? I think that's what they're still trying to.
A V3, I don't care. I'll
So let's talk about it because I do think it's interesting. It's a V3. I think it's 70 degrees or 75 degrees.
Yeah, it's kind of narrow, right?
So it's a more narrow angle. 2 cylinders in the front, 1 in the back. And then it has an E-compressor, which normally a supercharger is mechanically driven, usually off a belt, off of a pulley of some kind that spins up and drives the impeller. Or a turbo, which runs off the exhaust and pressurizes the intake. This is an E-compressor, which is just an electric motor on a compressor that pressurizes the airbox. What's interesting about it is because it's electric, you have complete control over the amount of pressure you generate. It isn't strictly driven from exhaust pressure or belt drive. So because it's electrically driven, in theory, there is no turbo lag, right? Because you could always just have it spun up at whatever pressure you need it to be. So you get rid of that issue.
But think about like elevation. You wouldn't have to worry about elevation if it's always pressurizing the airbox.
Theory, it cancels out a lot of the elevation issues. The other thing it does that's interesting is right now, all of the modern bikes that you see, especially if there's ram air designed into the
big
front end of the bike.
On the front, yeah.
The size and shape and location of the airbox is really, really limited because of what you're trying to do with the ram air to pressurize the airbox. Also, modern airboxes are very, very big. They take up a ton of space because it's a volumetric thing. We don't need to get into too much detail there, but basically, if you're going to have this pressurized airbox system, I think it's going to free you up immensely on not only the size of the airbox, but also the location of the airbox.
Right. You could put it like underneath the seat and it could be a tiny little thing.
Yeah. And that's why I think with this V3, if maybe that's part of the thought of we can get away with this narrow angle.
And have a tiny little airbox right in between the two of them.
So then the fuel tank can go where I want it. The suspension can go where I want. Like, I think it might free them up design-wise to some extent. So that part I'm really interested in.
Well, because you think about if you've ever taken a gas tank off a modern motorcycle, it's not this big voluminous thing. It's hollow on the inside, right?
Yeah, it's all concave on the inside
so it's
for the
kind
airbox.
Of so even like gas is kind of a hassle. Imagine solving that. It could be more fuel or a smaller tank out of the way or whatever.
Just change the ergonomics altogether, right? Yeah. So I think that part's really interesting. The question I have about the whole thing is, if you're going to run this E-compressor, it needs power. And if it's going to create significant amounts of pressure, it's going to need significant amounts of power, right? These pressure actually, it does take quite a bit to spin these things up. So is it going to run a bigger generator on it? Is
or
it
like a quasi-hybrid thing with a giant lithium-ion battery that can...
does it... Yeah, then is it pulling power right off the motor itself to charge the battery system? Like nothing's for free, I guess. Like at the end of the day, the whole thing is still powered by the fuel in the gasoline in the system, right? The electricity is not free; it came from somewhere. So I don't know. I'm curious how they've solved that problem.
With 900 cc's, I can't imagine it's going to be a ton of boost because 900 cc's should still do a reasonable amount of power.
It shouldn't need to be a ton,
right? Or is the idea to chase that Kawasaki supercharger
which I wouldn't think is the goal because frankly, that Kawasaki, that H2, it's very interesting. We've gotten to see them a couple times. They're cool, but you don't see them much.
Right. And I know people who've ridden them or they say they're unrideable once they get to a certain people up the boost, and they're like, it's not.
Yeah, this is too much.
Yeah, it's like a design exercise, right? That the public gets to buy, and I love that it exists, but it's nothing I will ever.
Yeah, it is. That H2 is clearly a halo product. It is. Look at what Kawasaki can do.
Yeah,
it
even says it has the Kawasaki Heavy Industries badge instead of the motorcycle badge.
Yeah, so I mean, they're cool. I'm glad they exist, but is that a market to chase after? I wouldn't think so.
Can't imagine.
So yeah, my guess is, to your point, it's probably like a mild boost, but it's this whole experiment to deal with, can we get away with it or not? So anyway.
So Indian was sold by Polaris. So basically they just have 2 new Sport Scouts, I think, give it bold new colors. Kawasaki, the ZX-10R comes back with more aero because we need more aero.
Need some wings on that thing.
Moto Guzzi, also they're moving to a new factory, but also bold new graphics. Some really cool graphics though.
Yeah.
Like they look great. MV Agusta comes out with a new Brutale, which is the most beautiful thing you have ever seen.
They're always pretty.
But I think the star from them was apparently sitting in the corner, and this is a couple companies apparently did this. They just had a crate sitting in the corner, kind of nondescript, but they had a V5 engine sitting on a box. On the side
I think I saw this. Yeah.
Which is, I'm all in. Like crazy V5s. Like,
what are we doing with it?
I like V4s.
Yeah.
Let's try a V3 and a V5.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So super exciting. And then Suzuki, this is kind of funny. They came up with like an SVX. Which is like an SV thing. So the funny thing is, Moto Bob, which is a great YouTube channel, he had a funny observation where he was, he's like, all the other channels they had, or all the other displays, there was, the bikes kind of spoke for themselves. Suzuki was the only booth that had really stunning, pretty girls sitting on the motorcycles. Yeah,
so
I guess
because they haven't developed anything for a while.
So that's kind of funny. And then Yamaha, a little disappointed with what Yamaha came up with, but we got the R9 last year, so that's maybe why.
Yep.
But they are doing their 75th, what year is it?
Oh, the red and white?
The red and white, 75th anniversary paint scheme.
I mean, I feel like they get a pass. That's pretty good looking.
Yeah, that is stunning.
Yeah.
And then they revised the R7, but I'm a little miffed with them not for that, because the R7 was worthy of, but they set it next to the old original OW02 R7 as the two are the same thing. And
don't even pretend.
They are not.
Yeah.
One was a homologated race bike for World Superbike. They made like 100 of them total or something. And the other is an entry-level sport bike, which is awesome, but not a homologated.
So to give some context to how cool the R7 is, if you're not familiar, if you go look this thing up, it was basically built to go be a World Superbike weapon to try to get Noriyuki Haga to go win the championship.
Right. Yeah, that's right. It wasn't
effectively what if right now, Dave, if in your garage, no cost to you, but you had to keep it forever, you could park the Desmo Sedici, the street bike that they built, or an R7 in here. Which one would you park in?
I mean, I'd probably go with the Desmo Sedici just because it got the Marlboro stripe, but they are both equal levels of special.
I have seen multiple Desmos in my life. I've never seen
one.
I've seen like a collector.
That's right. Yeah. I've never heard one run.
Never.
I've never. No, I think that's. Yeah, the R7 is more rare than a Desmo Sedici. And it's the same level of rarity.
Very special.
They had to make so many of them so they could race it.
Yeah, I think that thing would be so cool. But to your point, parking that next to a literal budget bike
it was
pretty unfair. But
yeah,
that's fair enough. That thing is cool. I think they stuck a couple little R1 little wings on the sides of the R1.
Everything. You gotta have wings.
Everything's got wings now. The Suzuki 1000's got wings. Everyone's got wings now.
Yeah, everything's wings. But the wing champion has to be CF Moto. They put wings on their little, like, what is that little 400?
Well, what's funny is, because I would have thought the reigning champion coming into this was the current BMW S1000. Have you seen
that thing? Like the wing looks like an apron that your mom would wear. Like it's this giant thing that covers the front of the.
Yeah, it's this big hunkered down forward. Like,
it's ridiculous.
What is this thing?
I don't understand. Don't understand. All right, well, let us know what bike you're most excited about from EICMA, and anything
Give
else?
us any other questions you got. We actually have a couple others that people have sent in the comments and stuff that I think are going to make great segments in upcoming episodes.
Oh, cool.
So
right on.
We'll definitely get to those for you guys. But yeah, any other questions you got, we're happy to share our opinions on these things. We're not the final say on all of it, but we're happy to try to help out where we can.
Awesome. All right, cool. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us in the hollowed halls of CanyonChasers corporate headquarters.
Yeah.
We love spending the time with you. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.